Hello, and thank you for joining me today on the Political Conversationalist. My name is Ben Phipps, and I apologize if it is just a little bit dark in here. I'm filming this quite late at night. I had some technical difficulties earlier in the day and wasn't able to use any natural lighting for this. However, I do have, of course, because it is Friday and this is when we do our update, our This Week in U.S. Politics videos, I do have three impactful stories that happened this week, and let's go ahead and crack on with those. Firstly, with primaries Tuesday in 4 states, more women have been nominated to run for House this year than ever before. 185 women were nominated to run for the House of Representatives, beating the record of 167 in 2016. Also, 11 women were nominated for governor, beating a record of 10 in 1994. So what that means is that more women are running for office than ever before in America. Not only are more women running, more women are succeeding. That's, of course, a good thing. The more diversity in politics, the more accurately I believe that the public will be represented by their representatives. If all our representatives are rich white males, then I don't think they're going to do a very good job of representing, underprivileged black youths or women in a lot of ways. Not that it's necessary to be exactly like the people you're representing, but it of course helps you to have that perspective. That's why I try to talk to as many different people as possible to get as many different perspectives as possible. However, definitely a good thing that more people are getting involved in politics than ever before. Hopefully younger people will follow suit. Of course, like I said I've mentioned in a couple of videos, a lot of younger people did get involved in this last election cycle with Bernie Sanders, and some even got involved with Trump. And even though I don't really particularly like either of those candidates, it's a good sign to me that politics is not dead and that people are at least paying attention. And now we have some hard facts, some statistics that prove that some demographics are now pursuing politics more than ever before. That is, of course, a great thing. Now to turn around and talk about a horrible thing in New Mexico. 2 men and 3 women were arrested in New Mexico. They had 11 malnourished children, aged 1 to 15, in some kind of desert compound. Police said it looked like some kind of a third world country, and that they would have been there sooner, but they had to wait to get a warrant. They also said that there were some type of Muslims. They really didn't say if they were Muslim extremists or whatever. However, one of the Islamic men there had an AR-15 style rifle and multiple handguns, and reportedly was teaching the children how to shoot. His name was Siraj Wahaj. He was also suspected of kidnapping his 3-year-old son, and his 3-year-old son's remains were found on site. Unfortunately, his 3-year-old son has passed. The circumstances of his death are not known. But they were more than likely Muslim extremists. Mr. Wahaj's father is a Muslim leader in Brooklyn, and I believe he was the first Muslim to pray over the opening of a session of Congress, I believe. So, very prominent Muslim person in the community who cast a good light on Islam in general, and then his son goes and does this. Now, the story is still developing. This is a fairly recent story. And the reason it's still developing is not because of some kind of conspiracy or cover-up. It's because there are children involved. And when there are children involved, or minors of any kind involved in news stories, it takes a long time to make sure that their parents are okay with what you're doing, that they're okay with what you're doing. There's compensation, copyright, using people's likenesses, all kinds of laws and legal loopholes that you have to jump through. And having minors involved kind of makes that more difficult. And many times that's why when things like this happen, the kids will never get named because the parents don't want their names to be broadcast. So that's still a developing situation. But as far as we can kind of tell, we can kind of guess that it was at least what was trying to be like a terrorist training camp. Islamic extremists teaching kids how to use weapons. A little strange. Anyway, Puerto Rico finally gives a more accurate death toll. I believe this was earlier today, Thursday, from Hurricane Maria in September 2017. Hurricane Maria absolutely destroyed a great deal of Puerto Rico and killed a great many people, caused a lot of infrastructure damage and things like that. However, the Puerto Rican government's original death toll was 64. Nobody really bought into that. Nobody really knows why they guessed so low. But now in a letter to Congress asking for relief money, they kind of said the number was 1,427, which is a lot closer to the truth. Which we don't, of course, we don't have a 100% accurate number on file anywhere in the U.S. either. But they were asking for money for aid, and that's the number they cited to the U.S. government. The hurricane, when it hit, caused the biggest blackout in human history. The entire island was without power. But not only that, but you have to think of, especially in developed countries, you have a lot of people who rely on electricity not just for their lights or food or whatnot, but they also rely on electricity for their dialysis or for their insulin pumps. And then there are also, of course, the hardships that come with transporting and distributing medication and stuff that people rely on. So it's estimated that many more people died in the long period of time it took for power to get restored to the island. It's an estimated cost of $90 billion in infrastructure damage has taken place in Puerto Rico. And of course that would be things like power plants and power lines and roads and schools and all kinds of things like that. And they asked for a little bit more than that when they sent their letter to the U.S. government. 3.4 million people live there, and they are U.S. citizens. I found it necessary to mention that. They're our own people. We often think of Puerto Rico as a foreign country and kind of group it together with Cuba or Colombia or Mexico or those other places. But Puerto Rico is legally owned by the United States. Unfortunately, it is not a state, but it is legally owned by the United States and is one of the 5 territories. If you go back and watch our Structure of U.S. Government video, then you'll hear me talk just a little bit about the territories. But Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, so they're not just Puerto Ricans, they're also Americans. I can't help but wonder how much stronger and how much more rapid the response to this devastating tragedy would have been had it been in one of the 50 states, or especially in one of the 48 continental states. However, it's hard to say. There was recently a push to make Puerto Rico a state. It seems to have died out. I think that's something that needs to be revisited, especially when they need help, and they can help us. Very popular tourist destination, lots of money in and out. Anyway, so they finally gave their the more accurate death toll. Of course, numbers still coming in, still slow getting their infrastructure back up. They're still asking for money from the U.S. government. It's a horrible situation going on down there, so make sure you keep those people who live in Puerto Rico in your thoughts and prayers. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you learned a little something today with this brief news update. And hit like and subscribe. Shoot me an email through my Facebook page if you have to get in touch with me or if you'd like to ask me a question. And we'll talk to you later. Have a good day.